Hey ladies and gentlemen, this is Tough Tony here, and I know that I'm probably like 5 days late on this, but this is I've been so freaking busy, pulled so many hours at work the last couple days, and this is my finally posted review of SummerSlam, which happened last Sunday. Los Angeles for the third year straight. Now, going into this event, I was realizing how WWE has done so much to hotshot the last couple weeks as far as pay-per-views and, this whole storyline. I said the WWE has infinite ways of fucking up tonight. Well, that night. And it all stemmed from them not having any, if they finished the matches wrong, if they just destroyed certain aspects of the storylines. Now, for the most part, I was hoping that this SummerSlam was not going to be a review of last year's SummerSlam, which was not only the lowest grossing SummerSlam of all time as far as the American fan base was concerned, but it was one of the lowest grossing pay-per-views in WWE history. I was hoping this one would not disappoint. First off, we had a 6-man tag match, and you know what that means, that you have 6 guys who should be doing much better things on this card than having a freaking tag match. But you have R-Truth, The Miz, and Alberto Del Rio, Mr. Money in the Bank, and versus John Morrison, Rey Mysterio, and Kofi Kingston. This match, I believe, was a pretty good opener, despite that they had Alex Riley and Dolph Ziggler in a non-title match, I believe, and it was a dark match. That should have made it to the card. But anyway, I think it was a pretty decent pace. Of course, you had a lot of high spots with Morrison and Kingston and Rey Mysterio. Those guys look like 3 Mexican jumping beans, even though only one of them is Mexican, jumping all around. But they added a pretty good atmosphere to this. Miz had more ring time than anybody. I could see why, because Truth, speaking as conspiracy theories, it's funny how R-Truth tries to say the same thing, but it comes over better when CM Punk says it, because R-Truth is making it more of a racial thing, but CM Punk is making it more of a cutthroat corporate business thing. But the match was okay. Besides all, Miz looked good. All the other guys looked good except for R-Truth and Alberto Del Rio. I give this a solid 3.5 out of 5 just to start things out. It was pretty good. It was upbeat. It's a good way to start off the pay-per-view. Then we go to Sheamus versus Mark Henry. I'm not sure if this match has any championship implications, but Henry is getting that thank you push because he's been there longer than the cumulative John Cena and Randy Orton. I figured this was going to be a match that they really could fuck up. Off the simple fact that, it's 2 big guys. Henry, I figured it was going to end wrong, and they did not disappoint me. Sheamus and Mark Henry, they did pretty well. There wasn't total dominating on each side. It was pretty even. Sheamus is trying to, turn into a good guy, and I don't think that shit's going to work. But you have a count out. A lot of physicality in here. Mark Henry managed to give him some sort of pounce-like maneuver through the security guardrail, and Henry won by count out. Yeah, what a good way. That's one thing. I hated the way they booked that. They could have had that end more definitively. I give it a 3.5 out of 5. I really did like the power game going on. 2 straight 3.5s out of 5. Next, we have Beth Phoenix versus Kelly Kelly for the Divas Championship. Now, of course, this match, anyone knew was going to happen. See, the only reason Kelly Kelly is even Divas Champion in the first place is that she's just very popular. She can't wrestle. She can't act. And she hangs out in the locker room with everybody in there got the same broadsides as she does. But she's not. Well, she goes up against Beth Phoenix, who should have been Divas Champion a long freaking time ago. Well, she was Women's Champion for a little bit. But Beth Phoenix pretty much dominated this entire match. And I knew if Kelly Kelly was going to win, she was going to get off a cheap victory, which she did, of course. She hit her Beth tried to go for the Glam Slam, and she rolled her up and for the win. I give that match a 2.5 out of 5. I don't even think... I'll get into a whole I'll get into a whole rant on female wrestling, because that's one of the many rants I have written down that I'm brainstorming as we speak whenever I have some damn time. Next up, we have Wade Barrett versus SmackDown's Mr. Money in the Bank, Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson. If you ask me, this match should have been a part of a triple main event, because this match was awesome. Wade Barrett and Daniel Bryan, oh man. Daniel Bryan was doing, like, I love European wrestlers. I love wrestlers like Wade Barrett and Skip Sheffield and Nigel McGuinness and William Regal and all those guys. I love European. I love their type. I love how they can be brawlers with ground and pound, but yet very, very technical. Oh, and I forgot Douglas Williams as well. Whenever you ever see him on fucking television. Yeah, that's great, TNA. Another person that can work, and yet Kurt Angle's the man to beat. Yeah. I fuck TNA. I say fuck WWE too, because looking at these pay-per-views is hard anyway, you know. But Daniel Bryan was looking pretty good. He was hitting major kicks on Wade Barrett. And then he was pretty much dominant from the early going. Daniel Bryan was, until Wade hit him with that black hole slam. And then it went back and forth. Daniel got him with the submission holds. I think he tried to hit him with a cattle mutilation, but it didn't work. Daniel caught him in a LaBelle lock. Wade Barrett got to the ropes. And how did it end? Daniel tried to go for, I think, one of those moves to the turnbuckle, and Wade Barrett countered and did him with one of those top rope lariats. See, one thing about Bryan Danielson is that even in Ring of Honor, he always pulled off that high spot. Someone always straddles him on the ropes, get on the top rope, and hit him with a lariat. You see that in all his high-profile matches at Ring of Honor. I think that's one of his favorite high spots to do, even though he's taking damage. Then Wade Barrett followed up with a Wade Slam or a Barrett Slam or whatever you call it for the win. This match got a solid 4.5 out of 5. That match was worked pretty well. I wish all of WWE's matches were like this. Then we had Christian and Randy Orton in a no-holds-barred match for the World Heavyweight Championship for the fucking 4th time in a row, I believe. The third or fourth time in a row these guys wrestling for the world title. It's actually the 4th time. Randy Orton beat him on SmackDown, beat him at the following pay-per-view. Christian got him back by winning a disqualification, and then you have tonight. Now, I've been watching pro wrestling or sports entertainment wrestling and independent wrestling for 20 years. And this is the first time I've ever seen a championship won on a disqualification. A world championship. I've seen championships changing hands backstage with hardcore titles. I've seen championships won in briefcases in TNA. I've seen championships won on found in fucking trash cans. But a world title with a disqualification. But then we go. I knew this wasn't going to be any match of finesse. They was going to use weapon after weapon after weapon. As you can tell, hardcore wrestling isn't really my forte. It is when you have guys who can't wrestle, like in ECW. How you have a bunch of guys, maybe about 3 or 4 guys on a roster that can actually wrestle. Everybody else was DDTs, pile drivers, and kendo sticks. Or complete botches like Sabu. I was looking at one forum and said that, I think it was a video on YouTube. It was Botchamania, as a matter of fact. And you know, Sabu's featured on there more than any other. And it was talking how that's just his style of wrestling. First of all, it is no one's fucking style of wrestling to botch every move that you do. But anyway, this match had some pretty good stuff. You had tables, you had RKOs, tried to go through the announce table, but the table never broke. And then next thing you know, they both ended up back in the ring, and Christian hit the fastest kill switch I've ever seen in the last 10 years he's been wrestling, or more. Christian hit Orton with chair. This is my thing. Like, they did something with the steel steps. He hit Orton with a chair. He went to the top rope, and that was the biggest recovery from a hard chair shot I've ever seen. And Orton hit him with the RKO on the steel steps for the win. And Orton is once again a fucking world champion. Just same shit, different day. I swear. I swear. I think it would have actually killed WWE to actually have a champion that somebody likes. Well, no. A champion that guys with in between the 21 and 35 age range will like. Because every other champion only appeals to 16-year-olds or 10-year-olds or 11-year-olds that don't know any better. I feel sorry for the younger generation because they have to be treated to see this type of shit wrestling on both cylinders, on both edges of the world. Fucking TNA and fucking WWE. And then nobody wants to watch independent wrestling because they rather see. You know, I'm not even going to get into that. I'm not even going to get into that. I'll get into that in another video. I'm supposed to be reviewing a pay-per-view. I'll get onto independent wrestling versus regular wrestling, sports entertainment, corporate wrestling. I'll get into that later. Then we have the undisputed WWE Championship. Oh yeah, by the way, Orton and Christian got a 5 out of 5. Undisputed WWE Championship. CM Punk, the guy who has done more ratings for Raw in the last 8 weeks than they've had in 3 years. Versus John Cena. I thought they was going to make this into a ladder match. You know, Triple H calling the shots, kissing Shawn Michaels' ass. We all know the matches he had at SummerSlam with ladder matches. This match was almost as good as the one they had at Money in the Bank. The only problem is that anybody with half a brain and common sense knew that this night was going to end shitty. We all know that it was going to be something going down. Then before the event started, I actually looked at half. WWE has a pay-per-view happening in Mexico soon, and of course, we have Alberto Del Rio, who's Money in the Bank. Now, of course, WWE is going to kiss the ass of the Latin American fan base, of course. My thing is this. We have so many. I have seen the WWE title change hands in about 3 weeks, 4 weeks probably. It has changed hands more times in 4 weeks than it has in 4 years, in a month. First, you had CM Punk beating Ray. Then Ray beating Miz. Then John Cena beating Ray. Then CM Punk comes back and then CM Punk wins it all and then Alberto beats him. After Kevin Nash powerbombs him. After the match. Then Alberto cashes in. Cena ended on controversy because he got his foot in the ropes. But I figure at the next Money in the Bank pay-per-view, I figure they should have a fatal 4-way. Because Ray keeps on getting dicked around. CM Punk gets a rematch, so does John Cena. And now you have probably the shittiest WWE champion since Diesel is now the current champion. You know what I mean? As far as drawing power goes. I'll give that match a 5 out of 5. I really don't want to get into details. That match really, like I said, the last pay-per-view had so much more on the line. They really worked it much better. This one was much of a fucking gimmicky throwaway continuation. It was there. It was pretty good, but it wasn't as good as the first. Solid. I think I'm going to give WWE probably the highest rating I've given a pay-per-view of theirs all year. I think I gave one pay-per-view a perfect 10. I think. I'm not sure. But I'll give this one a 9. A solid 9 out of 10. It was enjoyable. This is a match. This was one that you really would like to see. This is a SummerSlam that will not disappoint. Then you go to TNA's last Hardcore Justice, and that was still, after getting so much money from Destination X, they did pretty dismal as far as buys go for that last one. But WWE definitely wins this month. Because I'd rather you see SummerSlam than Hardcore Justice. I'll tell you that right now. This is Tough Tony signing off. I'm brainstorming a lot of rants. Just give me time. I'm actually going to do a rant on YouTube. Some shit that I just want to talk about. Bashing YouTube whores and such. We all know who they are. And if you don't, I'll let you know. This is Tough Tony signing off. Have a lovely Friday afternoon.